This is us 10 years ago, two underconfident and insecure kids. Along our fitness journey we were driven by these insecurities, and although we worked hard, we made a lot of mistakes along the way.
We would never have thought that 10 years later we'd be personal trainers helping others transform their lives. But one thing we've noticed training all our clients is that if we had the knowledge that we had now, we could have done it so much quicker.
We're going to tell you the 5 most important lessons we've learned in our last 10 years training.
So if you want to fast track your progress in the gym, then pay attention.
The most important lesson before anything is that you need to understand your goals. Most people forget about this step completely. We definitely did, because back in our early days training, we never even thought about what we wanted to achieve. We just wanted to be skinny like our friends and copied them by lifting stupidly heavy weights.
This is Thomas Gray doing his 56 kilos bicep curl.
We didn't understand what we wanted, so had absolutely no idea what we were doing. Because we didn't have clear and defined goals, we were training in completely the wrong way. Without knowing your goals or exactly what you want to achieve, you aren't going to know the actions you need to take to achieve them. A goal is a desired outcome that a person plans to commit and achieve. With exercise, we like to think of it as a commitment that you make to yourself. These goals can be completed over different time frames, the short, medium or long term. First of all, think about your long-term goal, the main thing you want to achieve in the next 3 to 10 years. For me, this was to lose weight, and for James, it was to gain weight. Once you know your long-term goal, then set medium-term goals that help you achieve this. These goals usually take 2 months to 3 years to achieve. An example for me would have been to lose 5 kilos in 6 months, because this would have helped me work towards my long-term goal. Finally, and most importantly, you need to set short-term goals. These take up to 2 months to achieve and are great for breaking down your long-term goals into smaller and more manageable tasks. For example, I aimed to lose half a kilo a week when I first started. Rather than just stating your goals, make sure they're carefully planned out. I'd recommend using the SMART goal framework to do this. Goals should be specific to what you want to achieve. They should be measurable with a way of tracking them. They should be achievable, actually possible for you to complete. They should be relevant, aligning with your values and your long-term objectives. And they should be time-based, with a realistic end date to clarify. To understand your goals, spend some time really getting to know yourself. Sit with yourself and think about your values and what you really want to achieve.
The second most important lesson we've learned over our 10 years training is to keep it simple. Health and fitness is one of the 5 most profitable niches on the internet. It's expected to grow to 125 billion by 2030, up from 88 billion in 2023. Unfortunately, there's thousands of companies trying to capitalise on this by overcomplicating an industry that doesn't need to be. This means that as a beginner, it's easy to become distracted by the sheer amount of misinformation available. As personal trainers, we get asked daily by our clients to clarify these misconceptions. The problem with this is that the ridiculous amount of information available often means people get overwhelmed and burnt out before they even get the chance to get started. We've struggled with this so many times with our YouTube videos, not knowing which direction to take. Before anything, understand that fitness is simple. Once you understand and apply the basics, you'll get the best results. When it comes to getting fit and healthy, there are 2 main things you need to think about: your training and your nutrition. Of course, sleep, recovery and supplements, etc. are important, but you do need to get the basics right first. With training, the bodies are responsible for movement, so move more. Understand there's only a certain number of movements the body can do. Hitting big, multi-joint compound movements is the key to getting strong. And with nutrition, the majority of your diet should come from natural, whole foods. If you want to lose weight, reduce how much you eat, and if you want to gain weight, increase how much you eat. It's that simple. Best way to apply this yourself is to just get started. Be conscious when you go into the gym. Actually pay attention to what you and others around you are doing. Apply what you learn from watching others, and never be afraid to ask for help. We've got a free community of like-minded people where we share ideas that's perfect for this. We'll put the link in the description.
The third thing we'd do if we were starting from scratch is to train like a minimalist. The biggest mistake we made when we first started training was thinking that more was better. We'd do a ridiculous amount of training volume of up to 15 exercises, 6 sets of 15 repetitions, meaning our sessions lasted up to 3 hours every day, and we had very little results to show from it. Although we did see some improvements, we burnt out so many times, had no life outside of the gym, and had major injuries from overtraining and being stupid. It just wasn't sustainable. If we would have realised less was more sooner, we could have avoided these injuries completely. Not only this, but we would have had better results in the gym. Training intensity, or how hard you work in the gym, and training volume, how much work you do in the gym, have an inverse relationship. This means that the more you train, the less you'll be able to push yourself. Because we were doing so much, we found we'd always be saving energy for the next set, and never actually pushed ourselves. There's definitely a time and a place for overreaching where you increase how much work you do in the gym, but more often than not, people slip into overtraining, which actually negatively impacts your improvements. Because we'd burn out every week, we ended up coming across the minimalist training technique. Minimalist training focuses on just a few key exercises that target multiple muscle groups, maximising your training efficiency. In the gym, your aim should be to do as little as possible and still get better. When starting out, we'd recommend a higher training volume, doing 5 to 10 exercises of 3 to 4 sets of around 12 to 15 repetitions. As you become more experienced, become more of a minimalist and do less by increasing your training intensity. I'd recommend a maximum of 5 exercises of 1 to 3 sets of 6 to 8 repetitions. Invest more of your time into training early on, but as you get more experience, you're able to push new heights in terms of intensity and become more efficient with your training. This has been the key to us sustaining our training long term. If you've got a busy life, the last thing you're going to want to do is spend 3 hours exercising every day, and you don't even need to. Train like a minimalist and structure your training in a way that suits you and your goals.
This brings us nicely to our 4th lesson. You need to be specific with your training. The most common mistake we see our clients make is that they don't train specifically enough. Tom came to us as he wants personal training to join the Royal Marines. When he signed up, we asked him what he'd been doing to prepare for it, and he told me that he's done bench press, squats and deadlifts. The Royal Marines fitness assessment involves running, pull-ups, push-ups and sit-ups. Even though Tom was training, he wasn't training in the right way and wasn't seeing results towards the Marine fitness assessment. We told him to focus on running and key bodyweight exercises before anything else. And he's already getting close to the entry requirements after just a few months of training.
That's double last time, isn't it?
Double last time, yeah?
But what does specificity mean? Essentially, the adaptation or change that you want is specific to the type of training that you do. Basically, if you want to get better at running, run. And if you want to get strong, then lift weights. But it's even more complicated than this. You've also got to be specific about the way that you train. Bodybuilders have more muscle than powerlifters, athletes and strongmen, even though they all do the same thing, lift weights. Why is this? Because they train specifically to build muscle. It's not just about being specific with the type of training you do, it's just as important to be specific with the way that you train. Bodybuilders use a slightly lighter weight and focus on isolating the target muscle. They train to build muscle. Powerlifters use a heavier weight and focus on recruiting as many muscles as possible to lift it. They train to get strong. To apply specificity to your training, firstly you need to understand your goals in step 1. Alex Hormozi says that when you start something, you should focus on just one thing. Look at your goals and select the one most important to you. Every action you take from now on should lead towards the achievement of that goal.
The final, most important lesson we've learned over our last 10 years training is to train for the right reasons. For over 8 years we've trained because we hated our body and the way we looked. Body dysmorphia and dissatisfaction are so common. It's estimated around 2% of the population in the UK are impacted by severe body dysmorphia. If you aren't happy with the way you look, you aren't alone. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the best bodybuilder of all time, hated his body at the time he won Mr. Olympia.
I never really was satisfied with my body. I looked in the mirror and I said to myself, I don't know how this body can ever win.
It doesn't matter how much you train, how much weight you lose, or how much muscle you build. Being satisfied with your body is a mental change and not a physical one. Again, you need to go back to your goals in step 1 and reframe them. Move from ego-orientated goals, training to improve the way you look or compete with others, to task-orientated goals, training for enjoyment and self-improvement. Studies show task orientation fuels intrinsic motivation and personal satisfaction, but ego orientation leads to potential for burnout, strained relationships, and a tunnel vision focus on external validation. And this is definitely something we found ourselves. It took us reaching the body of our dreams to realise that it didn't make us feel complete, and we still wanted external validation from others to make us feel good about ourselves. You need to learn to become satisfied with your body before you reach your goals. The main aim of us making this video is to give you an epiphany moment. A realisation that no change in your body is going to satisfy your internal desires. Be grateful for where you are now. You'll completely change the way that you train forever.